Hi everybody, so I just wanted to make a video showing you how to make a virtual choir. You might have seen Eric Whitacre doing virtual choirs, and now more and more people want to put their choirs and their communities together into a virtual choir to help us to sing our way through quarantine. So the first thing you will definitely need to do this well is a DAW, or a DAW. GarageBand, that means a digital audio workstation. GarageBand could probably work fine, but I'm using Cubase. Cubase is great, and others are great too. There's Logic for Mac users, there's Digital Performer, there's Reaper, there's all kinds of things. But I'm using Cubase, but these principles will apply to whichever digital audio workstation you want to use. You might even be able to use Audacity, but I'm not so sure. Firstly comes the pre-prep. I want to make a track, so we're doing this piece of music. It's called Goodness True by Gregorio, and the reason we're doing it is because our professor's retiring this year and we wanted to give her a leaving gift. We can't sing it in person, so we'll sing it virtually. You want to give a bit of pre-prep. Some people, Eric Whitacre and other people, film themselves simply conducting, and the choir or the orchestra will go along with them conducting. That can work, especially if you're especially clear at conducting, but the only risk with that is that people might misinterpret your beat. When I was still in Europe, it was fashionable for the singers to sing behind a conductor's beat, whereas in America they tend to be absolutely on the conductor's beat, and different people can interpret a beat differently. So this might not be the best solution. It depends on the music. What I've done for Goodness True is I've mapped out all the tempos. So I've given them 2 bars of count in, and then I've mapped out all the different changes in time signature and even some changes in tempo. You see, here's my tempo track, and towards the end it just gets a bit slower, and there are a few 6/4 bars, there are a few 4/4 bars. I've mapped that all out, and I've bounced my click track. So if I just play the click track, it sounds like this. And then what I've done on top of that to help people to get the notes is I've created a piano track, and thankfully this score actually has its own piano reduction at the bottom, so I could play along the piano track. So together it sounds like this. That's just giving them a note, and then there's 1 more bar of count in, and then so you can sing along with the piano and the click track to stay absolutely in tempo. And that's all I've done. So I played the piano in just with my MIDI keyboard here, and then what you do is you quantize it. And quantizing basically means that even if you played slightly out of time, it'll snap. All the notes will snap together to be absolutely in time with the click track, and that means that the singers will have a very easy time singing along with the click track, and the piano will give them their notes so that everybody will be in tune with each other. Now, on to recording. The instructions you should give, they should use the best microphone that they can find. Surprisingly, an iPhone microphone tends to be okay. I suggest not singing in a room that is too boomy. Don't sing in your kitchen or your bathroom, because I can add reverb in. I can make the recording more boomy. I can add reverb in. It's much harder to take it out if you've recorded it in your kitchen or something. So maybe recording in your living room or something, a room with more carpet, is a better idea. Try not to record too close to the microphone. Maybe test your microphone with the loudest bit to see how far away or how close you need to be. Test it with the loudest bit. If it starts snap, crackling, popping, overblowing the microphone, you're too close or you're singing too loud. Another thing is less vibrato. In virtual choirs, less vibrato is probably preferred because it's just going to be easier to mix together, especially with this kind of modern cluster chord music. It's much better to have less vibrato for mixing. And finally, when you're recording your singing, listen to the prep track. That's this track with the click and the piano. Listen to that track on headphones so that you stay absolutely in time and in tune, but also so that the click and the piano isn't bleeding into your own recording. So listen to this on headphones while you record. So I'm going to export all this to audio, and I'm going to send this audio to my choir and in a few days they are going to send me their tracks, and then I'll mix that down. So everyone has sent me their recordings, and what I'm going to do is look through each track first, because everyone's using a different microphone, everyone's in a different room, in a different situation, and what I found, I pulled in the Soprano 1 track, and of course it starts like this. What that is background noise, and the singing itself is great, but it's got this general hum of background noise. And so I'm just using Adobe Audition to do noise reduction on it. I don't want to do too much, but I just want to reduce the noise, because when you do that, the general effect is the noise just drops away and you're just left with the voice, and that's by far preferable. So I'm going to go through these and reduce the noise in all of them. So everyone sent me their recording, and now what you want to do is import them into your digital audio workstation. So I've imported all the tracks into Cubase, and one thing that's very important is to make sure they're all at the same sample rate. So I've set up my project to be 44.1 kilohertz sample rate. Some people will have recorded on 44.1, some people will have recorded on 48 kilohertz, and they probably won't know. If they're just choral singers, they might not know what they're recording on, and that's fine. It's your job to make sure they all wind up in the same sample rate, otherwise everyone will be singing off key. How do you do that? Thankfully, most DAWs do that for you. So Cubase offers you the opportunity to automatically convert things to the right sample rate when you import them into Cubase. So that's what I did, and so everything now is in 44.1 kilohertz. You can choose 48 if you want, it doesn't really matter, but just make sure that all the files are in the same sample rate. And then what I'm going to do, and what I've already started doing, is just dragging them so that they all start at the same time. They all start at bar 3. Luckily I have the score here, so I can see when they're all supposed to start, and I can follow through with the score and make sure that all the different singers sync up. So you just have to drag things around, you drag different files around at different points, and you make sure that they all absolutely sync up. So I'm going to go on with that, and I'll join you in a moment to talk then about mixing and making it actually sound good once they're in sync. Back again, different day. I'm in the same jumper because I'm in quarantine, why not? And what I've done since then is I've just normalized the tracks. That means I've just brought the peaks down to roughly the same level. It's not solving all the balance issues, but that's okay, it's a start. And the major thing that I've done that you might not think to do is to pan. So you want to pan all the tracks. So I've decided to put sopranos slightly to the left, altos a little more to the left, basses slightly to the right, but close to the center. You always want the bass a bit closer to the center, and then tenors a little more to the right. In this case, I've used what Alan Meyerson calls the Haas effect, using delay. But you can simply pan by dragging this to the left or the right, and you just want to give each of the instruments or each of the choristers, each of the parts, space. So if I show you without pan, this is what it sounds like. The problem with it, everything's on top of each other, so I'm going to show you with pan and then without pan. So this is with pan, and you'll hear when it changes. You hear what a massive difference panning makes to this whole thing. That suddenly there's space, and that there's this sonic space, which makes it so much easier to mix. So suddenly it's expansive. Next, I'm going to add reverb, so I'll be right back. So I've added reverb to each track. I've done it. I used 2 reverbs, a hall reverb, which has about a 2.5 second tail, and a church reverb that has about a 5 second tail, and it just has a bit of a larger space. I'm using the double jug technique that I learned from Jake Jackson from the Spitfire audio channel, and everybody's going to need a little bit different. If you've got a drier microphone like the Soprano 2 did, then we'll need a bit more reverb than the Soprano 1 did, but eventually we all we all find our place. And what reverb does is it puts it into a space. So without reverb, a line, the soprano 2 might sound like very dry. With reverb, it'll sound more. It's got a space there. And when all of them are put together, when all of them are channeled through the same reverb, all the chords will be able to blend together, and you'll hear the sounds of the different recordings blend together. So now I've put reverb on it. I've channeled them all through the same 2 reverbs, and these reverbs are then going to a bus choir full on a group track choir full. So they're going via the reverb into choir full. Now is going to be the hard bit, which is balancing it all and adding EQ or compression to the various individual tracks and trying to make it all balanced together. And I'm kind of scared, but let's see how we get on. So I've just done the top 4 voices, sopranos and altos, and I've EQ'd them. I've added a little bit of compression to some of the tracks just to knock down, because sometimes the dynamics go so extreme you just want to push them down a bit and contain it. And I've just added a little bit of EQ, and I'll show you what it sounds like with and without the inserts that I've done. So here's with. So you hear it's already quite a lot more blended. Here's without. And of course, that's only half the image. That's only my left ear. There's more to come, but I just wanted to show you. And so, for example, if you just take an individual voice, let's take the second alto. It just doing EQ and that kind of thing just allows them to open up a little bit. So you can hear the difference here. You hear the difference there. So just allowing the EQ to push up a little bit, open up, and also take away any frequencies which are interfering with the other parts, or any frequencies which are really sticking out of the mix and you just want to push down. Just makes it blend nicer. Of course, still a work in progress, but I just wanted to update you on what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So just to update, I've started working from the bottom up now, just starting with the bass 2, which is me, and then building up and up one part by one part. And one of the major problems that emerges is the difference in quality of microphones, that if there's 1 or 2 people who are on really bad quality microphones, it's very hard to make them blend in. And because this is one singer per part, it becomes particularly apparent at times. And there's not, I'm sure, better mixers than me are out there who could fix it just like that. But I'm trying my best to make it work. But nevertheless, I've gone through each part, adding EQ where I think necessary to either get rid of unwanted frequencies or just boost the voice a little bit, make certain qualities emerge from the voice. And the other thing that I've been doing is occasionally, and it happens in all parts because we're just singing on our own in a room, occasionally you need to just shift a pitch by a few cents. And I'm learning things, so I didn't know how to do this, but you can do it using Vary Audio, where it sort of creates things and you can just nudge pitches up or down by a few cents. And sometimes you have to do that to make chords sit, because even if you're tuning to absolute pitch, you know, a piano isn't actually in tune in the way that a very good choir would tune. And so sometimes you just have to push a pitch by a few more cents up or down. So I've had to do that here and there. On all the parts, I've had to just shift certain pitches up a few cents. It's not perfect yet, but I'm just adding part by part. So I've done the tenors and basses now, and there's... And you can hear the baritone. The baritone microphone was a little bit more muffled, so doing my best to make that work. But the tenors and basses, I've just started to find a blend with them now, and now I need to put them together with the altos and sopranos. And you can hear there's a sort of space and a bit of a sheen, a bit of a shine to it. So I've almost finished, and we're just getting there. I've just got to add in the soprano 1, and then we'll move on to the next step. But it's sounding a bit like this now. I've just added in bit by bit, trying to balance it, partly by using the faders, partly by pulling down faders, or you can see more easily here, pulling down faders so that things are at the right level. And sometimes it's just certain sections of the track that will be a bit too loud, so I'll cut that up. I'll just drag the track down in a sort of clip gain way, just drag that part of the track down a few decibels and crossfade between the tracks so it feels more seamless. But at the moment, so far, I'm about to end my day, but it sounds a bit like this. We're getting somewhere, I think, and it's becoming something quite beautiful. Of course, it'll never be as perfect as it would be if we were in the same room, but we just want to get it as beautiful as we can with the materials we have. Another thing with EQ, listen to this without a high cut. Do you hear? You might not be able to hear if you're not wearing headphones, and maybe you should be listening to this in headphones just to hear the differences. But right up there's this high hiss kind of sound, and it's probably to do with the microphone picking up, or just it's getting a lot of very high frequency sort of. Listen again. If you just cut all of that out with a high cut, low pass filter, then you see the difference. You see the difference between when it's on and off. That's another thing you can do with EQ. I did a little bit of mastering. So what I've done here, I bought some Waves plugins because they're doing a deal at the moment as of April 2020, and I bought this tape saturation, which is quite fun, and I just use a mastering preset, big and open, and I. Not sure that actually does an awful lot, but I love this, and this is just another kind of EQ which really just almost expands the sound, just opens it up and makes it even more sonorous. And finally, I added a third reverb. Once they've all been mixed together and they're all in one group in the choir full, I sent them to a third reverb, which is a sort of wooden church reverb, just to give it an extra bit of shine once the group was all mixed together. So that's all I've done. Now, what I want you to do is listen to it before and after. So I'm going to turn it all off, and then I'm going to turn it all on. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, it's not ever going to be the same as if they were all in the same room perfectly blending with each other. That might be an unattainable result, but the idea of this is to make it as beautiful as you can. And what I've tried to do here is not erase the quality of the individual voices, that we still want to hear the unique qualities of each voice, and you'll hear as each voice sort of emerges out of the texture at certain points and then blends back into it again. And that's very important with this kind of thing, I think, that we don't want all of them to sound like robots. But, you know, you just do the best you can with the materials you have. I'm sure there are many mixers out there who would do a far better job than I could, who have better ears than I have, but you're just making the best of what you got, and try to do the best job you can to do the justice to the music and do justice to the singers who have provided the material for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. There'll be more like it, so do subscribe if you enjoyed this, or leave a comment if you have any ideas or thoughts. And you can also support this channel on Patreon if you want, at patreon.com/inside the score. Thanks very much for watching, and see you soon.